I'm always impressed how sometimes like how 15-minute short films can leave a very lasting impression on someone who's been in the audience and who will tell you 5 years later, sometimes 12 years later, oh, I remember this film.
Laura, you are somebody who has seen the development, the entire evolution of shorts in the world. Actually, in the past 2 decades, when you must have started in the past century, actually, so to say, you wouldn't have had this many number of short films. Now the number has gone up, and the variety is much more perhaps than it was earlier. So, what is your experience in terms of, let's say, 25 years of history of your
Mhm.
association with short films? What has changed in the way shorts are produced and marketed, projected today?
Yes. Well, yes, some things have changed. I mean, I wasn't around in the times of the Lumiere brothers, I must tell you. But yeah, I've been around for a while. And yes, there's been, of course, there's 94 was a big change with the Sony DV camera that started changing things, changing the landscape. There was at the time in some places what was called guerrilla filmmaking, DIY filmmaking. A lot of people also film and audiovisual students would
Mhm.
usually sort of maybe not always feel legitimate to become film directors, filmmakers.
Mhm.
They would bring up their friends from film schools, for theater school, from drama schools, and they would start making stuff. So
Mhm.
at first, I would say in the late 90s, 2000, there was kind of this. It started being more a bit in terms of quantities. A lot was produced. It was very informal as well. People didn't care that the image was clean. It was more about very much about being in touch with the world now. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the qualities of short films, to be in touch with the pulse of the world. You can feel things coming. It also brings a picture of what life, what society, what's at stakes in the lives of people in various places of the world. It has brought this proximity. Now it switched to a level, I think, where also um, beginning filmmakers or beginners are much more also capable. I think.
Mhm.
I think the overall production quality has grown a lot in the last 10 years, and we receive a lot of films, and sometimes do not stand out. The subject is not very original, but there are good films. They are remarkably made. You know,
Mhm.
they lack sometimes a personal voice to them, but the quality overall is quite good. And yes, I guess it's been kind of everywhere the same. You can also see a difference in some places where people came together, usually filmmakers, very often with the help of festivals offering a platform with a tradition, where there's been advocacy to support
Mhm.
shorts as well, and to get
Mhm.
sometimes state support, regional supports, public funds, funds for foundations, but that there is some funding also, so that short films are more professional as well. And it makes a difference because when a short film is going to be made with more funds, it's also developed more carefully sometimes. It's not just on the spur of the moment, oh yeah, we have this great idea, we have these people around, let's make the film. But it's more about, yeah, I really want to express something. I really want to convey something special to the audience, and I really want my film to be something that will make sense. Also, when I look back at what I did in 20 years in my
Mhm.
filmmaker's career,
Mhm.
so that's it's not just about the money, but it's also about the care you will put into the film, into bringing the right people on board, and making sure everyone works not just because they have free time, but because they are fully dedicated to the project and taking it into the same direction. And yes, this sometimes makes a difference. And although there's always great films that come spontaneously with no budget as well, there's no doubt about this.
It makes sense for the governments and the institutions to fund as many voices as possible. For example, let's say 10, 15 years back, the governments were able to, film funds were able to fund 4 or 5 features. As against this, if they fund one feature less, they can fund 10 shorts. So instead of having five voices, now you can have 15 voices, and each picking up a different topic, speaking in a different voice with a different intensity. So that is perhaps the power of the shorts today. And you've been one of the pioneers in the development of short films worldwide. What has been your experience of taking out your own curated packages to various film festivals? What is the interest level?
Mhm.
Are people interested in such packages?
Yes, it's a very good question. It brings us to the visibility of short films. That
Mhm,
it used to be they used to be not so visible as they are now.
mhm,
Yes, definitely in the 80s, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, festivals were really doing the job of bringing the films to the audience, and you needed to go around to bring films to other festivals, to other places, and it was always about energetic people dedicated to the cause of short films wherever it was. I mean, in Colombia, and in, I don't know, in Japan, and wherever. But yeah, the response of the audience is always interesting because short films bring something different. They bring something different from the mainstream and even the art house cinema because it's not so much money at stake. So it can take this one step aside, and it can take these risks as well. Not to say that all the other films are safely made with no risk, but yeah, short films they really bring something different. What from what's on TV as well. But even in the cinema, there really are distinct voices, and I'm always impressed how sometimes like how 15-minute short films can leave a very lasting impression on someone who's been in the audience and who will tell you 5 years later, sometimes 12 years later, oh, I remember this film. There was this scene where this and this, because they related very personally. And I guess, yes, it's a bit like sometimes like a song can do. Uh, and of course, if you go to the cinema, you go to enjoy it. If you're a cinephile, you will have the same relationship with feature films. There's no issue about it. But with a general audience that is not necessarily a film going audience, you can really create a connection with short films, yes.